Hard work is not the key to success. These 5 concepts are. Last month, my company made $23 million selling air filters. If I listened to hustle gurus and working 20-hour days, I would have never been able to build this company. So, if you're tired of wasting your time and energy, my 5-step framework could transform your life. For years, one of my most valuable employees was my laziest. Let me tell you about a story about early on in Filterbuy when I realized the importance of being lazy. One of our earliest employees was a guy, and we'll call him John for the sake of this video. John was one of the laziest people I have ever met in my life. John would not take initiative to do anything unless explicitly asked. It used to absolutely drive me crazy. Then one day, we were really getting behind on our picking station where we were putting in filters to go out the door. And so I went and asked John to come over and help us, and he reluctantly agreed. I left for about 15 minutes, and I came back, and John had almost finished the whole stack of boxes or orders that he had been given. When John looked at the problem, he thought, okay, what is the way that I can get this done with the least energy expenditure possible? I immediately reverse engineered what he was doing and had everybody start following the same system. That's when I realized that being lazy is an advantage. You do not get paid in life or in business for how much energy you expend. You get paid for the results that you deliver. The key to being lazy is figuring out how to maximize your leverage points. Leverage points are ultimately things that you can do that are going to make everything else fall into place. And that's what John was so good at. He was doing this in the physical world, but in the ideas world, it's even more impactful. Hustle culture teaches us that, hey, the harder I work, the more results, the more success I'm going to have. But the reality is, the adage of work smarter, not harder, is really true. If you feel stuck, even though you're working hard, I can almost guarantee you're falling victim to this pattern. So let me tell you a story. During COVID, we expanded dramatically. We more than doubled in a year, from like $70 million a year to $140 million a year to then $200 million plus in like a 3-year period. We opened up locations in 6 different states within 2 years, starting with 1 location at the beginning. It was a huge expansionary time in our business. When that happens and you're expanding quickly and you're doing lots of things, that's when you start to see more opportunity and get distractions that get you off your core mission. It happened to me. Because we had so many operations, our freight needs were going through the roof. At the same time, freight rates, meaning the cost of actually trucking product between centers, was also going through the roof. So me being the entrepreneur I was, seeing the opportunity, I decided to get into the freight business. I ultimately bought 40 tractor trailers and hired drivers to go out and run this freight business, both internally for us at Filterbuy and for external customers. Boy, was that a mistake. So by the end of 2023, freight rates were coming down, we were hemorrhaging money in our freight business, and COVID boost has started to peter out a little bit. I ultimately made the decision to shut that business down. And boy, was that the right decision. I only wish I had made that decision sooner. Whenever I think about focus and I think about business, I think about this time in my life. Unfortunately in life, the easiest person to con is oftentimes yourself. And the sooner that you can come to the self-awareness of when you're being truthful with yourself and when you're just telling yourself what you want to hear, the better off you're going to be. Oftentimes people work hard for 6 months, then stop, then try a new thing, work hard, repeat. Having a long-term vision and being able to think long-term is a cheat code for life. When you're starting out on a journey, you have to know the general direction of where you're going and then step by step work towards that over a long period of time. If you keep changing directions every 6 months, you're gonna wake up in 10 years and have not gotten anywhere and wonder why. And the answer is you're not committing to something over a long enough period of time to allow it to work. But that forces the question, how do you focus in a world of infinite distractions? I want you to put this video into full screen right now. If you go into your suggested tab right next to this video, there are going to be 10 different people yelling at you to start a new hustle or make this new shiny investment. Even if these are good ideas, if you don't have the conviction to stay with something when it gets hard, you will never succeed. Focusing on your business isn't enough. There are too many variables. You need to pick what matters. First, you're going to start with your long-term vision. What is it that you're really looking to build? What kind of life are you looking to build? What kind of business are you looking to build? What does that look like for you 10, 20 years out? Step number 2 is you have to think, okay, What are the traits of the person that achieves that look like? What are the things that that person is doing? What are the types of businesses that that person is in? Or what is that focus going to be? What type of skills does this person have? What does this person's network look like? You got to be very clear on that. You have to be honest about the person that you're looking to become. What does that person embody? And then you start to focus on the day-to-day of how to become that person. If this person has a big business that is sustaining their lifestyle and paying all their bills, then you need to start building that business today, step by step, brick by brick. If you only learn to focus, you will still run in place. If you want to start compounding results, you need to pair focus with systems. So when I went through the process that we talked about before, I was very clear on what I'm looking to build with my life. I ultimately want to build a legacy business for the rest of my life. A big part of my reverse engineering how to do that was I realized that I needed to build systems that were going to work for me day in, day out, that were going to allow me to continue to compound and scale my business over time. But how do you start out? So the first decade for me starting Filterbuy, I had to be the jack of all trades. I was the head of marketing. I was the head of finance. I was the head of operations. I was the head of customer service. I did everything. I think that realistically, most people that are starting out are gonna find themselves in that situation. I think that people that are out there giving the advice of, hey, you're just gonna hire for all these things from day one, are not being realistic about what it's like to be a bootstrapped entrepreneur. Sure, if you're able to go out and raise a lot of money, then you can have somebody that's in charge of each one of those departments. But the reality is, if you're starting out, if you're an entrepreneur, you're ultimately going to have to be a jack of all trades and figure out, at least at some level, how to do each of these functions in your business. The key in any system or in any business is building a repeatable set of processes that if you follow them consistently, you're going to get a consistent desired result. As you grow, one of the cheat codes to being able to do this is ultimately hiring knowledgeable people to help you to build out the systems that you lack. So like, let's say you get to a certain point and you no longer have the expertise for dealing with your financial accounting, your financial systems, can be a huge unlock in helping you to build a system around that. 12 years in, my day looks quite a bit different. I'm responsible for our growth 2, 3, 5 years in the future. I have to set the vision and I have to be out there working on investing my time and money in the ideas that are going to allow our business to continue to thrive and grow 10 years down the road. Life is about building a series of systems. Building those systems, though, begs the question, when is it actually important to work hard? A 2018 study found that the strongest predictor of burnout or success was your ability to detach from work. Can you let the business or your goals go for a few hours every day? Hard work or smart work only matter when you pair them together to optimize for rest. The reality is, over time, your energy is going to ebb and flow. There are going to be times when you need to be really focused, all in, charging hard because you're working on something really important, you're really energized, you're going on all cylinders. But you have to remember, business and entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. You need to be managing your energy levels for the long term and for playing the long-term game. And it's just not realistic to hustle 24/7, 365 days a year. Even that guru you see on the internet saying that they're always hustling, they're always out there grinding, they're lying to you. That's just not how humans work, and it's just not sustainable, it's not realistic. To figure out if a task is worth working hard, you need to ask yourself first, is this consistent with my long-term goal or my long-term focus? Also, you gotta check in with yourself and say, hey, do I have the energy to give this task everything that it deserves? Sometimes what we'll find is, if we're already tired or if we're already burned out and we try to push through, we end up doing a second-rate job on something that really deserved all of our attention. Last thing I'd be thinking about is this really the best way of accomplishing what I'm looking to accomplish? Does it actually require this hard work, or is there another path of least resistance that I could get there easier? So you want to think through, is there any other way that I can do this without expending so much energy? Because if the answer is yes, then there is nothing wrong with taking the easy way out or the lazy way out. You need to give yourself permission to take the cheat codes when you're given them. The lazy way can be the smart way if it gets you to the same outcome. If you like this video, start putting your focus into learning high income skills that could change your life. Click my video on high income skills here.